Alright. Gang, we out here and stuff, you know? Alright, so I played another league over the break, and I have time to get this guy edited and get it tossed up here to y'all. So this hand's pretty nice. I have my one of Ancient Stirrings. I have a Forest. I have a Crop Rotation. I'm liking it. Smells pretty good. My opponent Underground Seas ponders. Pretty typical. Ancient Stirrings, 4 out of 5 cards are hits. I grab an Expedition map just to keep my flexibility nice and limber. My opponent goes for a turn 2 Goyf off of 2 dual lands that collectively get 3 colors. So I identify them as Sultai Delver. They Tarmogoyf me, they take away my Thought-Knot Seer, and then they play no next land. So I think to myself, alright, so he doesn't have Wasteland. I should just go real deep here. So I held up 2 mana there, so I could have paid for Double Daze or Pierce or Fluster. So I played around everything and only played through Force. So I get 3 Cloud Posts, meaning that even if he cantrips like crazy to find a Wasteland, it's gonna be too late. It's gonna be too late. Poor guy. So I put in the Eye of Ugin, and now I have holding up, make 9 mana, tutor with Eye, holding up 2, and I can play a Thought-Knot Seer for 2, except I also have a Glimmer Post. Glimmer Post meaning that if I tutor this turn, next turn I'll go in with 15 mana exactly, 4 from each post itself, 1 from Glimmer, and 2 from Eye. So I can just go get Aeon's Torn on his end step. And with an Aeon's Torn off a Glimmer Post, I'll just win. And stabilizing at 6 health is perfectly fine. So we tutor. We go get that good stuff. Aeon's Torn, Glimmer Post, slam that stuff. Asserted dominance, played around the cards that were relevant to be playing around. My opponent goes, oh, here's the Daze. And I'm like, yeah, played around the Double Daze. Not much you can do there, because that can't be countered. So with that opponent dead then, we go into our post-sideboard games. Post-sideboard games against Bug, you want to be really focusing on the fact that they have Assassin's Trophy to also go after your basic lands with. So you want to be having a solid mana base. You want to be finding your Veil of Summers. And here I am in the predicament of either holding up Veil or jamming Reclaimer. Apparently none of those would have worked, because it would have eaten a Daze anyway. But at least by forcing him to Daze my Reclaimer, he doesn't go into 2 lands on turn 2, which is really nice, because that means that if he cantrips, he can't both cantrip and land a threat, or he can't cantrip and hold up Disruption, besides Force. And I jam out the Reclaimer, because I just wanted to have a threat. Reclaimer eats the Force, taking another card with it, so my opponent's starting to get real low on cards. So this Veil of Summer is increasing in how good it is. Sadly, he does have the Thoughtseize, but he's forced to take Veil, and he's not able to take my Thought-Knot Seer, which is a realistic threat coming up really soon, and he also can't take Dark Depths, or handle that. So the Dark Depths, the only thing I'm scared of at this point is the Insectile Aberration. And whilst he kind of had every piece of interaction in the book, he had the Daze, he had the Force, he had the Delver, he had the Flip, he had the Thoughtseize, like, he had everything. But the Veil of Summer and the 2 Elvish Reclaimers stretched all of his cards so thin that when he gets to just his threats, it's fine. So he goes to attack here. And now I gotta think, do I make my 20/20 in black? Is that what I want to do? So I do the math and I say, okay, 4, 5, 6, 7... And my opponent just goes, okay, this guy's thinking a little too hard. He's probably going to learn how to make a 20/20 and kill me, and then he concedes. Poor guy. I always feel bad. I never feel bad. Never, ever, ever feel bad. I have the fire. Alright, so against this guy, let's see what we get into. Look at that hand. That hand's gorgeous. 3 Locusts. Ancient Tomb, Mirage Mirror, Expedition Map, and Green Source. This is what I want all day. My opponent has an Underground Sea into a Ponder. That's what our previous opponent also had. So, considering Storm decks and Delver decks can start the exact same way, it's hard to know what to do. So I continue to play around, assuming it's a Delver deck, and play my map out so that it can not get singularly dazed. So I play around the double daze. I get Assassin's Trophied, but I do have basics in my deck, so I go and get my Forest. So once you get the second Cloud Post down, that means that you're really, really close to hard casting Primetime Mana. The Grove of the Burn Willows, I see that card, and I'm able to take a huge sigh of relief, because Grove of the Burn Willows means you're not a Delver deck. Grove of the Burn Willows means you are a grindy late game deck that this deck should be. So my Mirage Mirror gets drowned. However, I get 3 card types in my yard, which is kind of nice. And Oko comes down. But Oko has no targets, because I just have lands. So I just play the Eye of Ugin, pass to him, take my Elking. Whatever, bro. Nice 5 damage. Get Thoughtseize, whatever. He takes the 1 legal target. And tutor up your Ulamog. Get your concession. Problemo solved. Move on to game 2. So my opponent's kind of realizing that they're not advantaged here. Even with Assassin's Trophying my Cloud Post in game 1, they're not in the spot that they want to be. I keep this hand because against a lot of decks that are like slow and dirtily, Emrakul the Aeon's Torn is actually a fantastic card to keep in your opener, as it can prevent your opponent from like locking you out of the game with a card like Jace by Fate Sealing you and just feeding you lands. As long as they're feeding you lands, that you're getting to your Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, and they're just hoping that, you know, that one card you've been sitting on the whole game isn't Emrakul the Aeon's Torn. So my opponent has a turn 3 Leovold. Leovold doesn't really matter for this deck. It does stop some interesting things. It makes, like, you can Karakas bounce it, but then they draw a card. It does make your Bog kind of bad. So there's a lot of times in this game where I'll want to really Bog him, but I don't want to give him 2 cards. So instead, I just keep on ramping out and just go for this Emrakul and just hope that he can't get to, like, Assassin's Trophy, snap Assassin's Trophy me. That'd be pretty rough. I do a Ballsy Crop Rotation as a force check. My opponent force checks, rolls a critical success with his 3 cards in hand, shows me that he has Force Blue card, and I think the reason I did that is because I knew the other card in his hand was probably a Punishing Fire, and figured that I could just hope that it's not Force and Blue, and that would be fine. I can trip around a little bit. Thought-Knot Seer. Realize that Thought-Knot Seer is in fact a target, so I get to give him a card. However, that's fine, because the card I give him I'll get to see without him having any mana. I see a card, I rip a card. So there's his Exile Zone. So then these Punishing Fires and 1 red source with this Grove, it just gets to feed the DAC engine, and this DAC becomes a really dangerous Planeswalker, because it's just incurring him so much advantage by digging him so deep. And the Punishing Fire makes it so that when he discards a card, he really draws a card, and it's fine for him to just flop the Punishing Fire back and forth, because flopping it back and forth just lets him gain more cards. So here, I'm forced to bog him out. He was able to Thought-Seize me, and take my Emrakul, which made me very sad, because it reset my graveyard, and resetting my graveyard prevents Emrakul the Promised End from being as cheap. And now he just gets to beat in with the beauty that is Tireless Tracker. The beauty and grace that is Tireless Tracker. And, yep, there it is. DAC Emblem stole my Thought-Knot Seer. DAC Emblem stole my Thought-Knot Seer. Alright. Mulligan that bad stuff. Keep the perfect Once Upon a Time hand. Start jamming some Cloud Posts out there. If he has like a 1 of Wasteland, whatever, just let it happen. Off of Swamp, he Thoughtseize me. I like that because the basic land Swamp, without it being snow, means that he doesn't have good mana, and probably thought Swamp is like the worst card in his deck. And he's forced to play it on turn 1 because he wants to Thoughtseize me because he's on the draw, and that prevents him from having some more effective turn 2 plays that might be double color intensive, like I suppose, Drown in the Loch or prevents a punishing fire on my Elvish Reclaimer if he wants to have a blue. So I end up playing some lands, get Assassin's Trophied, whatever. I have enough basics to continuously feed Trophy, Snap Trophy. At this point, the name of the game is just riding Elvish Reclaimer to victory. My opponent plays some more lands, Thoughtseizes me again, takes one of the threats, leaving me with Primetime, which I thought was kind of weird. So I lose my Reclaimer to a Drown. Luckily, rip the Cloud Post, as only a man of true skill could, and just decide to go real deep on Cloud Post and just tell him I'm going to cast this Primeval Titan next turn. He hits me with the third Thoughtseize, the absolute Mad Lad, and Oko's, and starts using Oko as the every other turn make an elk clock. So I'm kind of strapped, but I got a lot of mana. I don't have much in the tank. I got 3 card types in the yard. I'm just kind of hoping for any draw. He rips away my Elvish Reclaimer and donates me a food, which is real nice of him. And I draw Veil of Summer, and I think to myself, wow, this card's really good. All I need to do is draw anything, and then I can use this Veil of Summer to push it through. And then I draw Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, and I'm like, okay, well, this will be fine. My opponent then goes Surgical on Primetime. I'm like, whatever. And then he goes Snap Assassin's Trophy on my draw step. The reason that was really scary is because if he had hit my Cloud Post with it, I wouldn't be able to make 16 mana and cast Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. So in this very strange instance, Veil of Summer actually made it so that I was able to resolve Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn in the same turn. And also, it draws me a card. So when they ban this card in a few months and Aiden's real sad, this will be a little part. I'll take a picture of this guy hanging up on my wall and remember the good old days. Was that this one? I can't remember. Always got to be pressing that button. Do a quick check. Yeah. Yep. Stop wasting the viewer's time. All right, and now we're going to play against P4 or Palm, I guess. And this player is really good. I actually have, I think, 2 games against him in my log, and they're both losses to him on Grixis Delver, with just me remembering I get rolled by like double Delver, like double Thoughtseize, double Force, just like the nut. So I know he has Force. He lands the threat first, Thoughtseizes me right off the bat, puts the second threat out. Now the clock is so fast, the blind flip has happened, like everything's looking real rough. And it's this point that I actually, in my head, I just said, okay, I'm going to lose the game if this Elvish Reclaimer gets handled, or if I lose another card out of my hand that it matters. So I'm getting chunked for 6 every single turn, meaning I only have 2 more cards. Get Thoughtseize for the second time, so I get hit with double Delver, double Thoughtseize, and a Force of Will. And I'm not looking happy. I'm able to get into a Thespian stage, and I'm able to make a 20/20, but he has the second Force of Will too, and blue card to pair with it, which is the third Delver of Secrets. So it's triple Delver, double Thoughtseize, double Force of Will was this guy's hand in draws. It's literally the best you can draw. So I don't necessarily feel bad about losing this one. I went for a 20/20, and even that, like, it didn't come together. So yeah, my opponent is both incredibly skilled, and in that case, I'm going to say a little bit lucky, whilst I do tend to not want to say that. So I keep a bad hand. I'm kind of discouraged, and I'm not going to lie, I definitely got a little too much salt in the veins here. My opponent has a turn 1 Flooded Strand pass, and I'm just thinking to myself, crap. If I had just mulliganed again to a hand that performs, as opposed to this double Thespian stage hand with 4 green cards and uncastable TKS, then maybe I would be getting there against this guy. This guy would have wastelanded me already, and his only plan was just turbo Thought Scour out of Gurmag, and I was like, This could have been so handleable. Like, Mazavith could have locked this down. Like, there are so many, like, possible things that can occur. And now I'm just going to get punched 4 times by this Gurmag and sliced into with this Wasteland. He actually lets me copy it. And then I shamefully just dip out of the game when I get with the Ulamog on top, because I'm just gonna die in 2 turns, and I really didn't feel like just watching a probably guaranteed loss happen. I realized I could have played that out a little bit more, but I am human. All right, so playing against not a Wedded? What's this guy's name? No name needed. Oh, okay. That makes a lot more sense. I get turn 1 Reclaimer. I see a lot of Lotus Petals this league. I get Thoughtseized again. I'm like, boy, that is wild. So all these Thoughtseizes are getting slinged around, and my Veil of Summers are just vibrating in happiness. So my opponent goes for an Infernal Tutor. I'm holding a Bojuka Bog. Reveals and gets a second copy of Ritual, Cabal Ritual. So I bog him out. Get rid of all that crap. So I know his hand is double Ritual and 3 cards. I decide to hold up the Reclaimer and hold up Crop Rotation together. He Thoughtseizes me. In response, I Crop Rotation to go get the Tomb so then I can make a 20/20 as quick as possible. Crop Rotate away the Forest because I already have Reclaimer to go get another Bog. Immediately regret it by drawing Once Upon a Time and figure out, well, that was maybe just a little preemptive. But you need to be activating this every turn, to be getting Tomb, then Staged, then you go get the Depths and make the copy. My opponent goes into an Adnaz, draws a bunch of cards, cantrips around a little bit. Cracks his fetch. What a guy. Cabal Ritz. Boom, boom. So I'm like, as I'm playing, I'm like clicking through, looking at all of his cards as he's clicking through. I see it's like, oh, there's just a Tendrils. Okay. Let it all resolve. I look at myself and I'm like, well, if I had kept this up, I could have technically gained 1 life. And I'm just like, well, he could have just cast another Cabal Writ and done it, but realistically he couldn't have because he cast them all. So hey, you listen, sometimes it happens, but not attacking with that was not the move. I think attacking to try and take 3 off the Adnaz was worth over gaining 3. So you would have made 2, gotten your Glimmer Post, gained your 2 life, and gotten 1 extra copy away from being dead. But hey, it sometimes happens. So playing against Storm, you bring in your Spheres and you bring in your Veils. This hand is Heath plus Veil plus Reclaimer. I actually hold up turn 1 Veil because in case he turn 1 Thoughtseizes me, I want to be able to Veil Summer back. Veil Summer also does prevent the turn 1 kill if the Ant, which this guy is. So I was deciding on its end step if I should have Veiled or not. I decided not to, and decided instead I'm just going to keep up Veil. And if I'm playing a land and then keeping up Veil, then everything's going to be fine, because if he starts to go off, I just cast Veil, I don't die that turn, I go to my next turn, and he's kind of strapped on resources. I rip the land I want, revoke her down the LED, so it starts trimming down his options, and I just start juggling this Veil. And this is about the time that I've realized that my opponent's been playing way more Magic than I have with in regards to the clock. So I just start slowing down my opponent, trying to get them into a very low amount of time, playing the clock really importantly, because that is a big part of MTGO, especially when playing against combo decks, to force them to keep going. So here I have my Veil, but I let my opponent get into the Adnaz and start Adnazing down, because I want him to lose all this life. Let him resolve some Lotus Petals, gain some Storm. He duresses me. In response, I crack. In response, he chains. I consider chaining back. Don't. Go and Veil in response to the duress. So the duress doesn't hit me, and now he can't hit me with Tendrils, and his Storm's so high, and he's so deep into Ad Naus, with only 2 life left remaining, he's going to empty, which I'm completely ready for, because I have Expedition Map, which can go get me Tabernacle. So he's not clicking through these empties quite efficiently, and is like losing a little bit more time as they go through, and I'm noticing that I have 17 minutes on the clock, and my greedy ass opponent has 8 minutes left. Whatever. I'm not mad. Play the Reclaimer, pop the map, holding up Crop Rotation, play the Tabernacle. So I don't play Sphere here, and that's for a weird reason. One being that my opponent just used kind of everything, and I knew all the cards in his hand, and the combination of cards that were left were just like, I think it was like Preordained Brainstorm, and a bunch of chaff. And if he's going to use all of his mana to save a small amount of goblins anyway, which is what I was figuring him to do, then he was just going to lose all this time. And I see that the amount of things that Tabernacle puts on the stack when you make a huge empty is massive. And Tabernacle just starts hammering his clock. And this guy's not playing fast. So he's only got 4 minutes and 20 seconds left, and he's still got a bunch of goblin things that he has to put on the stack, resolve, because they're his triggers because of the way Tabernacle now is. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll just keep sending back priority, and force him to take some more time just to get through his upkeep. He's losing like a minute and a half. And I was like, okay, with 4 minutes left and 2 health, all I have to do is make Elvish Reclaimer connect once. Okay, not too bad. Of course, I check the sideboard at this point. I wonder if I can... Yeah, perfect. And I see that I took my Sir Jerry step out. The reason that you do that is because there's nothing that blocks Merit Lage in Storm, typically, unless they have Hope of Garroper, and in that case it doesn't matter because they're going to sack it anyway. So we clean out his yard. We let him chunk in a bit, and we just say, okay, that's fine, I'll pay for it, and then copy my Tabernacle, sack one of my lands, because they're both legendary, and hit you for 3. So remember that legendary rule is important if you need to get an extra card into the yard for Reclaimer. Normally you do that by making a 20/20, and that'll put 2 cards in your yard to make your Reclaimer bigger. But if you just have a Thespian Stage and any legendary land, like Tabernacle or Depths, you just copy it and get 1 extra thing in the yard. And in this case, that gave me lethal. So now my opponent's really stressed. They're on 3 minutes, and we're in game 3. So I just think to myself, okay, I'm just going to play this game like I need to stop them. So my opponent duresses me, takes away my Sphere, and leaves me with just Crop Rotation. I figure, okay, well, I gotta hold up something. So I'm holding up the Crop Rotation with my triple Expedition Map hand, which looks really bad. And now that I look back on it, I think to myself, I should trim Expedition Map in this matchup. And in my current list, I've actually just trimmed an Expedition Map from the deck because of Once Upon a Time giving so much consistency that you don't really need, like, Expedition Map is the best tutor in the fact that it's like super consistent, but it's also the worst tutor because it's not like particularly good, but it's always baseline pretty decent. And I really don't have anything to do here. I'm holding up a Crop Rotation against the Ant player, and that typically doesn't do much. And my opponent starts comboing off, and I'm like, okay, let's see if he can do it. 1 minute left, he activates Ad Naus, and he starts drawing. So I'm watching every single card he draws, and this guy is spamming. He is drawing whatever he can. And around 5 life, he starts to take an extra second or 2 per card. And that extra second or 2 really ended up mattering. He pumps out his jewelry. I'm watching this clock. My eyes are glued to this thing. I'm like 9 seconds. I'm watching incoming death. And my opponent tutors. Everything's on the stack. He has the kill imminent. He even has put the tendrils on the stack. Would get through my Glimmer Posts, gaining me 1 more life because it would be at 11 Storm. But he just used up all his time, and I get to walk away with that sweet 4-1. You know, really, really deserving it. All right, thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure. Hope you enjoyed.